In the memories of rural America, hillbilly dinners weren't as meager as people often think. Beyond corn and beans, people hunted groundhogs for stews to feed their families and foraged for wild greens to replenish vitamins after the long winter. It was a survival cuisine, refined over generations. In this video, we'll explore 25 forgotten hillbilly dinners and the clever cooking tips that transformed humble ingredients into meals full of nutrition, flavor, and memories. Collard greens and pot liquor. This dish is truly a survival legend, containing the stewed broth dubbed the liquid gold essence of the Appalachian Mountains. This hearty green vegetable has a miraculous ability to survive the first frosts of the season when all other crops have withered, becoming a precious source of vitamins for the tired bodies of miners. To prepare it properly, old-time housewives would strip the leaves from the thick stems, chop them roughly, then simmer them for hours in a shiny black cast iron pot with ham hocks or lard until the broth turned a thick smoky green. An ancient tip that not everyone knows is that the elders often added a small sugar cube or a piece of orange peel to the pot to neutralize the characteristic bitterness of the old collard leaves. Although it only cost a few cents per pound of greens, the nutritional value from the iron and minerals in the pot liquor was priceless, and people of the past never poured this liquid away, considering it a winter tonic. It is a shame that many people today waste this nutritional source by pouring out the cooking water. If you want to recreate this flavor in a modern kitchen, you can use fish sauce or liquid smoke to replicate a similar umami taste without simmering meat for too long. Soup beans. This is the very dish that defines Appalachian cuisine, a symbol of simplicity that is never monotonous in rural kitchens. Since the 1820s, soup beans have been a staple food helping families get through cold winter days. For a perfect pot of beans, people had to soak pinto beans overnight in crystal clear spring water, then slow simmer them for 6 to 8 hours in a cast iron pot with lard until the broth was as smooth as cream. During hard times, just one cheap bag of dried beans could feed a whole family for many days. Served with crispy cornbread, this dish provides a nearly complete source of protein. Our grandparents back then had a small trick. Always use a cast iron pot and absolutely never add salt at the beginning because it would toughen the bean skins. They also often added a small pinch of baking soda to the pot to help the beans soften faster, and especially to help reduce bloating after eating. Even though modern pressure cookers cook faster, they cannot create the characteristic wood smoke aroma of the traditional simmering method. And if you want the broth to thicken faster, try taking a ladle of beans out, mashing them, and pouring them back into the pot. You will see the magic of the traditional texture return instantly. Groundhog Stew. When food reserves began to run low in February, groundhog meat was the first precious source of protein signaling the return of spring. When prepared correctly, their meat has a sweet and rich flavor, a wonderful combination of pork and chicken. However, the processing requires expertise, as the cook must immediately remove the red scent glands under the animal's armpits to prevent the meat from becoming bitter and smelly. The meat is then soaked in salt water to remove the wild gamey smell, parboiled with a bit of baking soda, and then slow stewed with potatoes, carrots, and wild onions. A well-fed groundhog could provide a hearty and nutritious dinner for a family of 6 for several consecutive days. Although modern people often feel a stigma when hearing the name of this dish, for our ancestors, it was a priceless gift from nature during times of hardship. If you have the chance to try this wild sensation, you will be surprised by the natural sweetness of the wild game meat prepared in the traditional way. Before diving deeper into this list, don't forget to hit hype right under the video to join us in preserving these rustic but valuable culinary memories of old-time rural America. Hominy. Hominy is a miraculous dish with pearly white kernels that puff up like air balls, providing nutritional value far beyond ordinary corn. Hillbilly people learned the nixtamalization technique from the Cherokee, using alkaline water made from hardwood ashes to soften the tough outer hull of the dried corn. The process of soaking in ash water for many days not only makes the kernel swell, but also releases precious vitamin B3, helping people of the past prevent serious nutrient deficiency diseases. After being rinsed many times to remove the alkaline water, the kernels can be cooked into a thick porridge or fried crisp with lard to create a high-energy dinner. This is a testament to profound survival culinary knowledge, knowing how to use folk science to elevate available ingredients. Compared to the bland canned hominy available today, homemade hominy carries a fragrant aroma of wood ash and a very characteristic nuttiness. If you want to enjoy this dish quickly, buy canned hominy, but remember to rinse it very thoroughly, then saute it with butter, garlic, and onions to partially recreate that heroic traditional flavor. Wild greens mess. A wild greens mess is the most vivid evidence of the Appalachian people's intimate survival knowledge of nature. Since the last century, they knew how to forage pokeweed, lamb's quarters, and dandelions from the fields to save their families from spring vitamin deficiencies. Notably, pokeweed is a toxic plant, so housewives had to boil it 3 times, pouring out the old water each time to remove the toxins. This is a life-saving lesson passed down through generations, turning a dangerous plant into a delicious specialty, sautéed with lard and scrambled eggs. A mess of greens like this contains a source of precious minerals and a mild bitterness that helps naturally cleanse the body. To ensure absolute safety, you can use mature spinach, but apply the old folks' technique of sautéing it in lard to capture the traditional flavor. Modern diets today are often lacking in original and biologically powerful green vegetables like these. Please share with us if you ever went foraging for wild greens with your grandmother in the early mornings. Ramp dinner, wild leeks. In the old rural areas, wild leeks, ramps, were always the first fresh vegetable to appear after 6 long months of living only on dried and salted foods. Therefore, it brought a bountiful source of vitality to people. Ramps have an extremely pungent, characteristic aroma, so much so that people often cook them at outdoor parties because the scent could linger on the body for days. Ramps were usually cleaned and fried with eggs and potatoes so that the starch from the potatoes could absorb some of the strong garlic oil. Many people even like to eat ramps raw with cornbread and beans to fully enjoy their spicy and refreshing flavor. Nowadays, high-end restaurants may charge very high prices for this dish, but for mountain people, it was a free and generous gift from nature. If you can buy wild leeks, try pickling the white bulbs and using the green leaves to make pesto sauce, a unique combination of Appalachia and Italy. Country ham and red-eye gravy. Salt-cured ham and red-eye gravy are often compared to savory meat candy, accompanied by a characteristic dark red sauce that looks like the eyes of someone who stayed up all night. These slabs of ham were salted and thoroughly smoked with hickory wood, then hung in the smokehouse from autumn through spring. To make it, the cook fries thick slices of ham in a cast-iron skillet until the edges start to get crispy, then pours strong black coffee into the hot grease remaining in the pan. The sauce sizzles and spatters, gradually becoming dark but incredibly rich. In the last century, this was a meal that provided immense energy for laborers who had to perform exhausting 10-hour shifts. However, modern fancy breakfast spots will probably never fully understand the philosophy of thrift and the flavor sublimation behind this simple sauce. Old-time housewives often utilize the leftover coffee from breakfast to create this signature sauce. You can also elevate the flavor further by adding a tablespoon of cold butter at the end of the cooking process to create a glossy smoothness and soften the harsh bitterness of the coffee. Apple stack cake. The apple stack cake is the highest symbol of community bonding, often appearing as a magnificent wedding cake at major ceremonies. Born in an era when refined sugar was too expensive, this cake used dried apples, stewed in molasses as a binder, instead of modern frostings. A standard cake usually has 6 to 12 thin, hard cake layers like ginger biscuits, stacked on top of each other with a cinnamon-scented dried apple filling in between. The key secret to this dish is that the cake must be wrapped in cloth and left to rest for 2 to 3 days, so that the moisture from the apple filling can soak deep into the cake layers, making them soft and well blended. From just basic ingredients in their home gardens, mountain people of the past created a gift that could feed a large gathering. Modern cream cakes are often too sweet and spoil quickly, while the apple stack cake brings a rich flavor and durability over time. For the filling to have the most standard thickness, you should use dried apples stewed with apple juice instead of using fresh apples, which have too much water. Killed lettuce. Killed lettuce is a dish with a very impressive name, describing an explosion of flavor when spring meets winter right in your hot salad bowl. The name killed comes from the unique technique, using sizzling hot lard directly from the pan to pour over young lettuce and green onions just picked from the garden. The instant heat from the lard wilts the leaves gracefully while still maintaining the juiciness and slight crunch inside. Then, a bit of apple cider vinegar is added to create a sour and spicy sauce that blends with the richness and aroma of the pork smoke. This is how people in the old countryside utilize the leftover grease from breakfast to turn simple wild greens into a high-class appetizer. The elders in the past usually performed this task quickly to ensure the greens were not overcooked, keeping a vibrant green color. Conversely, modern salads today often use bland, cold oils, completely lacking the soul from the smoky essence of traditional lard. A healthier version for those who want to maintain their physique is to replace the lard with hot olive oil and a bit of mustard while still keeping the spirit of the dish. Persimmon pudding. This dessert is truly a symphony of autumn flavors, concentrated with a refined and complex sweetness like wild honey. Mountain people only began harvesting wild persimmons after the first frost, around October, because that is when the fruit loses its astringency and reaches maximum sweetness. The fruit pulp was then pressed through cheesecloth or a mesh sieve to remove seeds and fibers, then mixed with buttermilk, eggs, cinnamon, and nutmeg. This mixture was slow baked until the top was slightly charred, but the inside remained smooth and soft like custard. The final product is a dense, smooth pudding with an attractive charred top, but a soft custard-like interior, emitting a passionate aroma. The elders of the past always emphasized that if the persimmons ripen too early, they will make you pucker. If too late, they will be mushy. Therefore, waiting for the frost is a step that cannot be skipped to ensure the pudding is not astringent. If you cannot find fresh persimmons where you live, use pureed dried persimmons with buttermilk to recreate this signature flavor right in your kitchen. Sour corn. Sour corn is a sophisticated combination of European fermentation techniques and indigenous preservation methods. The dish was born when canning equipment was still a luxury, demonstrating extreme human resourcefulness in the face of the rigors of time. The process begins by removing fresh corn kernels and packing them tightly into large stone crocks. Then, boiled water that has cooled is poured over them, and they are sealed with a cloth and stored in a cool cellar for 3 to 4 weeks for natural fermentation to occur. If this fermented corn is fried in bacon grease, the sour and spicy taste reduces the richness while creating a dish rich in probiotics that is extremely good for the digestive system. To prevent mold growth, mothers often used cabbage leaves to cover the top to press the corn so it always stayed below the brine level, ensuring perfect anaerobic fermentation. Compared to the bland and lifeless canned corn of modern times, traditional sour corn carries a completely different and vivid flavor profile. Today, you can absolutely recreate this dish at home using glass jars with a one-way airlocks to easily monitor the transformation of the corn kernels. Chow Chow. Dubbed the gem on the preservation shelf, Chow Chow is the type of condiment capable of waking up any dull dinner during cold winter months. This was originally the way mountain families rescued the last vegetables of the season from being destroyed by frost by turning them into a diverse relish. Everything left in the garden, such as green tomatoes, cabbage, onions, and bell peppers, was chopped small and salted overnight to draw out water, helping the vegetables stay crunchy after pickling in vinegar. This mixture was then pickled in vinegar with mustard seeds and sugar. A modern tip is to add turmeric seeds so the relish has a vibrant, eye-catching yellow color while enhancing anti-inflammatory properties that are very good for the health of the elderly. Each jar of Chow Chow is a colorful work of art, a testament to the thrift and skill of the woman in the family. The feeling of opening a new jar of relish and smelling the pungent vinegar blended with the aroma of spices always brings an indescribable excitement to family members. Greasy beans. Greasy beans are considered the peak of summer food preservation art, with a texture as smooth as silk after being carefully prepared. The name greasy beans comes from the fact that this type of old green bean naturally lacks fuzz, and when ripe, it looks shiny as if it had been rubbed with grease. To prepare for winter, rural families would often string the beans into long chains and dry them in the shade, a folk method called leather breeches. When it was time to cook, these bean chains were simmered for hours with a large slab of salt pork until they became tender and saturated with smoky flavor. This is an ancient preservation method that does not cost any modern equipment, but perfectly preserves the nutritional value and natural flavor of the earth and sky. Compared to the bland and mushy canned green beans today, greasy beans bring a completely different and nostalgic culinary experience. You can try this flavor at home by using old pole beans, simmering them for a long time with smoked sausage until the bean skins turn a shiny olive brown. Cornbread and buttermilk. If there is any dish capable of comforting the soul and dispelling fatigue after a hard day's work in the field, it is certainly cornbread and buttermilk. This was a popular choice for a late-night snack, or when there was nothing else more appealing to prepare in the kitchen. The method is extremely rustic. You just need to crumble pieces of golden crisp skillet cornbread into a glass of very cold buttermilk and eat it with a spoon. The wonderful contrast between the piping hot, crunchy crust of the cornbread and the deep, cold, mild sourness of the buttermilk creates an indescribable, refreshing sensation. The secret to having an extremely crispy crust is that the cornbread must be baked in a cast iron skillet that has been preheated with a little lard. This dish costs only a few cents in ingredients, but provides a feeling of fullness and is extremely easy to digest for both the elderly and young children. A small tip for modern gourmets is to sprinkle a little coarse sea salt on the surface of the cornbread before baking to more strongly stimulate the taste buds when eaten with milk. Vinegar pie. Vinegar pie is often called desperation pie, but it carries a magical flavor identical to expensive lemon meringue pie. When fresh fruit, eggs, and butter became luxuries beyond reach, the wisdom of hillbilly people found a way to use apple cider vinegar to create a clean, sour taste that mimicked lemon. A simple mixture of sugar, flour, vinegar, and water was whisked thoroughly with egg yolks to create a smooth custard filling, then baked in a crispy pie crust. The result is a dessert with a magical flavor, both mildly sour and lightly sweet, enough to soothe the soul of anyone during the most difficult times. The secret to this dish not having a pungent vinegar smell is to whisk the egg yolks very thoroughly with sugar to create a silk-like smoothness. Costing only a few cents from ingredients always available in the kitchen cabinet, this pie provided spiritual satisfaction and sweet joy amidst difficult days. Today, you can add a little grated lemon zest to the mixture to completely deceive the sense of smell, turning the poor dish of yesteryear into a high-end dessert. If you have watched videos on the channel before, please leave a comment "I'm back" below, so we know you have returned to these old memories. Cushaw Squash. Cushaw squash is a giant squash with a unique crookneck shape that can weigh up to 9 kilograms, growing abundantly in mountain gardens and can be stored all winter in a cool cellar without rotting. Compared to ordinary pumpkins, the Cushaw squash is far superior in natural sweetness and has a dense, smooth meat texture with less water. Rural people in the past often roasted the whole large squash in the ashes of the kitchen stove or slow stewed it to keep the flesh from becoming watery, then scooped it out to mash with butter, sugar, and cinnamon. With a size that can reach up to 20 pounds, one cheap Cushaw squash could feed a large family for many days through pies or fried dishes. A special feature of this squash variety is its excellent resistance to pests and diseases, helping it become a reliable companion for self-reliant farmers. Compared to modern squashes, this variety has less water, so you won't need to use too much cornstarch to thicken the mixture when baking pies, helping the pie have absolute smoothness. Our grandparents in the past also often utilized its hard shell to make containers after all the flesh had been taken. Fried catfish and hush puppies. Fried catfish and hush puppies have been the centerpiece of bustling community gatherings by the stream for generations among rural people. After being cleaned, the catfish would be soaked in buttermilk by housewives to remove the muddy smell, then rolled in a seasoned cornmeal coating and fried golden brown in hot lard. Accompanying the fish were always hush puppies, balls of cornmeal mixed with onions that were fried right in the same pan of grease to utilize the delicious flavor released from the fish. Did you know the name hush puppies originated from an interesting anecdote about people throwing leftover pieces of fried dough to the barking dogs begging for food by the fire? This was a bountiful free food source from the rivers, providing essential fats and proteins for mountain people. A subtle little tip is that the elders often used the fish cooking water itself to mix the dough for the hush puppies, helping the flavor to become more unified. To make the dish more suitable for today's taste, try adding a little kernel corn and minced jalapeno to the dough before frying. Pickled pig's feet. Pickled pig's feet is a unique dish rich in collagen with a pungent, sour, and spicy taste, capable of waking someone up faster than a cup of strong coffee. This was also a great way not to waste any precious part of the pig after the slaughtering season, ensuring a food source throughout the long winter. People boiled the pig's feet until the meat almost fell off the bone, then soaked them in a hot vinegar mixture, seasoned with bay leaves and peppercorns for many weeks. To keep the skin a beautiful white color, according to old beliefs, the elders often boiled the pig's feet with a silver spoon or aluminum foil. Pickling in vinegar not only helped preserve the meat longer, but also created an excellent side dish, helping to cut through the richness after heavy, fatty meals. Today, you can add a few slices of beetroot to the soaking liquid so the pig's feet have a beautiful natural pink color and a gentler, light sweetness. The presence of jars of pickled pig's feet in the storage cellar was always a comfort to rural housewives before long snowfalls. Cracklin Bread. Cracklin bread is a true adventure in texture, where crispy, salty pieces of pork cracklings hide inside a rich and fragrant layer of cornbread. This is the clearest symbol of the philosophy of using every part of the pig, elevating things thought to be discarded into a culinary work of art. The cracklings obtained after the manual rendering of lard would be kept, still having a bit of lean meat attached so that the bread wouldn't be too dry when baked. The cook would mix these golden, crispy pieces into traditional cornbread batter and then pour it into a preheated cast iron skillet to create an extremely attractive crust. A dinner with Cracklin Bread provided a bountiful source of energy from fat and protein, helping people withstand the bone-chilling cold of the mountains. The elders in the past often considered this a special treat during the community's pig slaughtering days. If you don't have enough time to render lard manually, use crushed pork rinds to mix into the batter. Each crispy piece of bread not only satisfies hunger, but is also a tribute to the hard work and thriftiness of our ancestors. Souse Meat. Jellied meat, also known as souse, is a testament to the hillbillies' absolute respect for the animal by not wasting any part. Each region from Virginia and Kentucky to West Virginia has its own distinct spice secrets to turn parts like the pig's ears, snout, and tongue into a refined cold cut. People would simmer these parts until tender with vinegar and a range of characteristic herbs, then chop them small and let them set naturally thanks to the abundant gelatin released from the skin and bones. The result is firm blocks of jellied meat, rich in collagen and carrying a sour and spicy flavor that is incredibly stimulating to the taste buds. While Virginians like to use a lot of black pepper, Kentuckians prefer sage to remove the meat smell and create a pungent aroma. This is a dish that helps provide an abundant source of protein at an extremely low cost, often served with cornbread in winter dinners. City people today are often wary of these organ parts, but in fact, they are missing out on an original and nutrient-rich flavor source. A tip modern housewives often pass around to increase the depth of the dish is to add a bit of bourbon to the Kentucky-style Souse mixture to create a seductive oak flavor. Hogmaw. Hogmaw is essentially a cooking pot made of meat containing the most delicious and nutritious filling you can imagine. This dish is a clear testament to the traditional nose-to-tail eating philosophy to honor the sacrifice of the farm animal. The preparation process requires meticulousness, as the stomach must be cleaned many times with salt and vinegar, then turned inside out to be stuffed. The filling usually consists of minced sausage, diced potatoes, and cabbage, where the potatoes play the role of absorbing the delicious fat released from the sausage. After being stuffed full, the stomach is sewn shut and boiled or slow roasted for hours until all the ingredients inside blend together. Using a modern slow cooker will help the stomach cook evenly without being tough, and then you can put it in the oven for a bit so the outer layer becomes crispy. This is a hearty dinner that can feed the whole family with a very low cost from the cheap parts of the pig. Frosted meatloaf. In the 70s, frosted meatloaf was the centerpiece of elegance at family parties, bringing a magnificent appearance like a birthday cake. Potatoes were not only cheap, but also helped the dish become more substantial, while bringing an eye-catching and attractive look to the dinner table. Traditional meatloaf, after being baked, would be covered with a thick layer of frosting, made from mashed potatoes, whipped with butter and milk, then baked again until the topping was slightly golden at the edges. This dish not only provided an abundant source of protein and starch, but also brought visual joy to the young children in the family. To upgrade the flavor, you can mix cheese into the potato frosting to create more crunch and a pungent aroma. While food waste in modern parties today is at an alarming level, frosted meatloaf reminds us of a time when everything was utilized in the most creative way. Fried green tomatoes. Fried green tomatoes are a wonderful contrast between the crispy cornmeal crust and the attractive, firm-fleshed, tangy green tomato interior. This was originally a clever strategy of farmers to utilize tomatoes that didn't have time to ripen before the first frosts killed the plants in September. The green tomatoes were sliced thick by the ladies, dipped in rich buttermilk, rolled thoroughly in a mixture of cornmeal with salt and pepper, and then fried golden in sizzling hot lard. The result was vibrant fried tomato slices, providing a bountiful source of vitamins for dinner at a dirt-cheap price. An important tip from the ladies is that the tomatoes must be patted very dry before rolling in flour, to ensure the crust does not peel off when frying. To make the dish more stimulating to today's palate, add a little cayenne pepper powder to the cornmeal layer to create a mild, exploding, spicy taste. While modern fast food often only brings a feeling of greasiness, this dish brings a refreshing and crisp coolness. Squirrel and Dumplings. Did you know that in the past, for mountain boys, hunting a squirrel and bringing it home for their mother to prepare was considered a proud rite of passage? Squirrel meat is naturally very tough, so it needs to be simmered for a long time in a cast iron pot with wild onions until the meat begins to fall off the bone. Then, people dropped thin rolled strips of dough called slicks into the boiling broth until they puffed up and soaked in the sweetness of the meat. This type of thin rolled dough is especially effective at absorbing the sauce, far more so than round dough balls, bringing a sense of satisfaction in every bite. In modern city conditions, you can absolutely replace squirrel meat with old chicken thighs to get a similar toughness and sweetness as the ancient dish. Wild squirrel meat provided a clean and incredibly nutritious source of protein for family members during freezing winter days. Utilizing bountiful food sources from nature was the key to helping our ancestors remain self-reliant in all circumstances. Fatback and Creasy greens. Have you ever heard of the combination of rich slabs of pork fatback and the pungent spiciness of Creasy greens? This is a signature dish signaling the end of a harsh winter. Salt-cured fatback was once a core survival food because it almost never spoiled, providing essential calories for the body. Meanwhile, Creasy greens, also known as upland cress, were the first wild greens to spring from the ground in early spring, bringing precious vitamin C after many months of only eating dried foods. Rural families in the past often boiled the greens with a large slab of salt fatback so that a layer of grease surrounded each leaf, softening the pungent spiciness and helping the body absorb nutrients better. This is a testament to the deep understanding of nutrition and how to combine ingredients of mountain people. Compared to the expensive and bland sprouts today, the original pungent spiciness of Creasy greens brings a completely different vitality. If you cannot find Creasy greens where you live, try using watercress and sautéing it with chopped smoked pork belly to still be able to partially recreate this flavor. One-handed egg cracking. The technique of cracking eggs with one hand is not just a performance act, but also a symbol of a cook who has truly mastered the pace in the kitchen. This technique began to boom at diners in America in the mid-20th century, when chefs needed to free up one hand so they could stir batter or flip pancakes, while the other hand continued to prepare eggs for an omelet. The correct way to perform it is to hold the egg with your fingertips, thumb on one side, index and middle fingers on the other. Tap decisively on a flat surface to create a clear crack. Use the force to pull back from the fingers to open the shell, letting the egg fall neatly into the bowl. This skill allows the housewife to crack eggs while stirring batter or holding other cooking utensils flexibly, saving up to 50% of preparation time. This is a fundamental skill that every rural chef is proud to possess as a testament to their seasoned experience. Although there are many modern egg separation tools today, cracking eggs with one hand is still a basic and proud lesson for anyone who loves cooking. Homemade pancake mix. Preparing a dry ingredient mix for pancakes became extremely popular from the 1940s, when rural life began to be more hurried after World War II. To save time and money, housewives often pre-mixed flour, baking powder, sugar, and salt in large quantities, and then stored them in airtight glass jars. Every time breakfast came, they just took a sufficient amount of powder and added eggs, milk, or melted butter to have a delicious dish immediately. Making the mix yourself at home also helps the housewife completely control the sweetness, saltiness, and eliminate unnecessary preservatives usually found in boxed powder. This is a great way to maintain the Sunday breakfast tradition without having to laboriously prepare from scratch during busy mornings. However, this mixture should be used within a few weeks because baking powder will gradually lose activity over time, making the cake less fluffy even if the recipe is unchanged. Today, healthy eating trends are bringing this little tip back with the addition of seeds or whole grain flour to the homemade mix, turning old bread into crispy bread. Never be in a hurry to throw away bread that has become hard and dry, because they are the perfect ingredient to create crispy bread, croutons, that elevate soups and salads. During the Great Depression, bread was the main energy source, and throwing away old bread was considered a wasteful act. Old bread will be cut into cubes, mixed with butter or bacon grease, seasoned with a bit of garlic powder, and herbs, then baked at a high temperature until golden brown. Science indicates that old bread has a lower water content, so fat will penetrate deeper inside, creating a crispy texture and a more buttery aroma than fresh bread. The Maillard reaction during baking not only makes the bread look good, but also creates a very seductive complex aroma. Homemade croutons are not only tastier, but also avoid the preservatives and artificial flavorings usually found in store-bought packets at the supermarket. But remember that bread should be left in the air for a few hours before baking crisp, because the natural drying process helps the crispy texture be more stable and not harden after cooling. Potatoes cooked in heavy cream. If you want to find a technique to create the smoothest and richest mashed potatoes in classic style, try simmering potatoes directly in heavy cream instead of using water. This kitchen tip began to be popular from the 60s, when rural families utilized excess cream from the butter-making process to elevate the dish. According to modern science explanations, fat molecules will wrap around starch particles, preventing them from oversticking to create a silky, smooth texture without being crumbly. A note that Mom often says is that heavy cream needs to be heated over very low heat from the start, because too high heat will cause the cream to separate fat before the potatoes are cooked, affecting the final smoothness and flavor. The result is a potato dish with a natural creamy flavor, just the right stickiness, and extremely attractive in family parties or Thanksgiving. Although there are many different ways to cook potatoes today, this direct cooking method is still the secret of professional chefs. This perfect combination is evidence that understanding ingredients can turn the cheapest things into a luxurious feast. Making jam from overripe fruit. Making jam from overripe fruit is a clever way to utilize the highest natural sugar content found in fruit that is about to spoil. In a self-sufficient rural context, strawberries or apples that were too soft were sometimes the best ingredients to be cooked into sweet and rich jars of jam. When fruit is overripe, the natural pectin and sugar content increases, helping the thickening process happen more easily and quickly. Slow cooking helps the sugar caramelize, bringing an amber color and a deep flavor that just ripe fruit cannot have. Just cut off the spoiled parts, mash the fruit, and then cook with a large amount of sugar until the mixture reaches the perfect setting point. The high sugar content acts as a natural preservative, creating an environment where bacteria cannot grow, helping jam keep for many months. Today, although we can buy packaged pectin to cook jam faster, the caramelized flavor from the traditional slow cooking method is always something difficult to find again. Turning leftover coffee into ice cubes. Never throw away the leftover coffee in the pot, because rural families knew how to turn them into precious gems for a noon cup of coffee. This tip began to be popular from the 70s when plastic ice trays became standard items in every American home. Instead of using regular water ice that dilutes the drink, using coffee ice cubes will help your iced coffee stay rich until the last sip. These cubes are also a great ingredient to add to chocolate cake batters or stews to add flavor depth without changing the moisture too much. Today, connoisseurs still keep this habit to create specialty coffees at home without having to spend money at a shop. If you also love coffee, try this tip right away and share your feelings with us. Freezing leftover biscuits. Freezing leftover biscuits is an extremely effective time management tip for housewives of the 1950s. As family freezers began to become popular, housewives applied the cook once, eat for many days mindset to save a lot of time and cooking fuel. The core technique is that the biscuits must be allowed to cool completely before being individually wrapped and placed in an airtight bag for freezing. Researchers have proven that cooling will avoid moisture accumulation, creating ice crystals that make the biscuits soggy, while quick freezing helps prevent the starch from degrading and hardening the biscuits. When needed, you just bake them directly from the frozen state to have delicious biscuits as if they were just baked. This tip helps biscuits maintain excellent flavor for 2 to 3 months. Gourmets today still prioritize this tip because homemade biscuits are always free of preservatives and carry a truer buttery flavor than store-bought items. A small but important detail is not to spread butter on the biscuits before freezing, because the fat on the surface will be oxidized when frozen for a long time, making the biscuits lose their fresh butter smell when rebaked. Corn nixtamalization process. Nixtamalization is a sophisticated but practical chemical process that mountain families learned from indigenous people to improve the nutritional value of corn. When corn was the main food source, this technique helped prevent serious nutritional deficiency diseases often encountered in communities eating a lot of cereal. The traditional method involves mixing ash from hardwood with water to create an alkaline solution, then soaking dried corn kernels until the outer hull comes off. But only ash from clean hardwood must be used, without paint or chemical treatment, because the natural alkaline component ensures the nixtamalization process happens effectively and safely. According to modern research, this alkaline solution helps release vitamin B3 or niacin and enhances calcium content, helping the body absorb protein more easily. This is the basis for creating traditional dishes like hominy grits or delicious and nutritious cornmeal. This process shows the clear difference between just eating to be full and eating to live healthy of resourceful rural people. Today, although this process has been industrialized with food lime, the core principle still remains unchanged compared to the way of our ancestors. If these kitchen tips from our grandparents have helped remind you of the taste of home or helped you learn clever thrift ways, don't forget to hit the hype button so these traditional values can spread even further. Using potato water to make gravy. An important technique to distinguish an excellent cook in rural areas was how they used potato boiling water. This tip was particularly popular during the Great Depression and in poor mountain regions like Appalachia, where people never wasted anything. Instead of pouring the boiling water away, housewives used it to replace regular water when making gravy, pouring it directly into the meat fat pan and stirring over low heat. The amylopectin starch released by potatoes into the water during boiling acts as an excellent natural thickening agent. It creates a smooth consistency and adds minerals along with a subtle, earthy flavor that regular water or cornstarch cannot have. This is the secret to creating a perfect glossy gravy without costing the family an extra cent. While modern chefs often prioritize convenient store-bought broths, this little tip is gradually being forgotten, but its value remains intact. If you try it, remember to only keep unsalted or very low salt boiling water because high salinity will unbalance the flavor and make the gravy consistency hard to control. Using cornstarch for thickening. Do you know that cornstarch mixture is the secret behind smooth and glossy bowls of sauce in the kitchens of rural families? Cornstarch began to become popular from the mid-19th century and quickly replaced flour in thickening broths and sauces. Instead of putting the powder directly into the hot pot, which easily causes clumping, housewives usually mixed cornstarch with cold water in a 1-to-1 ratio and then slowly poured it into the boiling pot. When meeting high temperatures, the cornstarch particles will swell and create a water-holding network, bringing a characteristic glossy effect to the dish. This technique not only helps the soup look more attractive, but also maintains the original flavor of the ingredients without needing expensive butter or cream. Specifically, the sauce only reaches maximum consistency after about a minute of gentle boiling, because if boiled for too long, the starch network will break, making the sauce thin again despite enough cornstarch being added. Although there are many modern thickening agents today, the cornstarch method is still preferred for its speed, effectiveness, and particularly being gluten-free. Using vinegar to clean burnt pots. Before strong industrial cleaning chemicals appeared, rural families knew how to utilize the ingredients available in the kitchen to protect their expensive pots. Using vinegar to clean burnt pots is a safe and cheap solution for pots that were thought to be ruined. The execution is very simple. Pour a mixture of water and vinegar in a 1-to-1 ratio into the pot to cover the burn mark, then boil for a few minutes until the buildup starts to come off. According to chemists, the acidity of vinegar weakens the bond between the burnt food layer and the metal surface, making cleaning easier. If encountering stubborn stains, a little baking soda added will create a bubbling reaction, helping to push the buildup out without needing vigorous scrubbing that scratches the pot. This tip helps extend the life of cooking utensils and saves a significant amount of cost for poor families. Using vinegar is also safer for health and more environmentally friendly than using modern industrial cleaning chemicals. But also remember that after cleaning with vinegar, the pot needs to be washed very thoroughly with warm water and dried immediately, because leftover acid can cause the metal surface to tarnish or easily catch dirt later. Using old coffee cans as strainers. Using old coffee cans as strainers is the clearest evidence of the spirit of never wasting anything. During a time when metal was prioritized for the military and specialized kitchenware was extremely expensive, rural families created strainers from these tin cans. They would wash the can, use a nail to punch small holes in the bottom according to need, small holes for straining gravy, larger holes for straining vegetables or excess fat. The important factor is that tin has good heat resistance, not being deformed when meeting boiling water or hot grease. And the tall, cylindrical shape of the can helps create a strong flow force, helping to strain faster. This little tip helps remove residue or clumped flour in sauces, ensuring food quality always reaches standards despite lacking professional tools. You can design the strainer hole size yourself to be suitable for straining smooth sauce or filtering out fat residue after frying. It clearly shows the flexibility and wisdom of rural people, always knowing how to customize available things around to serve life's needs. Although today we have all types of modern stainless steel strainers, the resourcefulness of the old coffee can is forever a lesson in creativity. Homemade seasoned salt. Instead of spending money on expensive brand-labeled spice jars, rural families from 1930 to 1970 often prepared a universal seasoned salt mixture for themselves. The reason, first of all, was that buying loose spices would save every precious penny. The classic formula often started with table salt mixed with garlic powder, onion powder, a little color-creating paprika, and a pinch of cayenne pepper to add a kick. This combination created a flavor bomb, helping to elevate everything from fries, grilled meat, to stews in just a single sprinkle. Culinary-wise, self-mixing helps the housewife fully control the salt intake and customize the flavor according to the family's own preferences. This is the predecessor of modern multi-purpose spices, but with a much cheaper cost and absolutely no preservatives or artificial additives. This little tip not only helps save the budget, but also creates a unique characteristic in the food flavor of each house. Today, among countless expensive gourmet salts on supermarket shelves, this traditional recipe still retains its value in convenience and economy. Drying herbs on a clothesline. Drying herbs on a line is the oldest preservation way to turn fresh summer leaves into a source of seasoning and medicinal herbs used for a whole year without spending a penny. Before modern dehydrators or refrigerators, rural families relied entirely on natural air to keep the flavor and use of plants in the home garden. Herbs were usually harvested early in the morning, tied into small bunches, and hung upside down in dry, airy places away from direct sunlight. Scientists have researched that hanging upside down helps essential oils flow toward the leaves instead of being lost, while circulating air will evaporate water slowly. This natural drying process helps keep the color, characteristic aroma, and prevents mold from growing without any preservative chemicals. This practice not only creates spice jars carrying a personal mark, but also makes the kitchen always waft with a very pleasant, natural fragrance. Self-dried herbs usually have a much richer aroma than industrial products, which have lost most of the essential oils during heat treatment. Making ice cream in a plastic bag. Making ice cream in a plastic bag is an extremely interesting manual tip, turning milk and sugar into a cold dessert in just a few minutes of shaking without needing a machine. Popular from the 1970s, this tip is associated with DIY culture and children's fun activities in the countryside. You need to prepare 2 Ziploc plastic bags, a small bag containing the milk, sugar, vanilla mixture, and a larger bag full of ice cubes mixed with plenty of rock salt. According to physicists, salt has the effect of lowering the freezing point of ice below 0 degrees Celsius, creating an extremely cold environment surrounding the milk bag. Continuous shaking for about 5 to 10 minutes will break down large ice crystals, helping the ice cream freeze quickly and achieve the necessary smoothness instead of being icy. This process creates a smooth and fluffy ice cream texture instead of being rock hard, as when you just simply put it in the freezer. You can perform this tip anywhere, from outdoor camping trips to small garden parties. Try making a batch of ice cream this way with your family members to see your summer become more interesting than ever. Maintaining cast iron with lard. Using lard to maintain a cast iron skillet is the final secret to keeping your kitchen utensils always in the best state. After cleaning and drying completely, housewives will apply a thin layer of lard over the entire pan surface, then heat until the fat starts to smoke. High temperature causes lard to undergo a polymerization process, creating a hard and black glossy film sticking tightly to the cast iron surface. This film not only acts as an excellent natural non-stick layer, but also prevents oxygen from contacting iron, helping the pan never rust despite use over decades. The more you cook with fat, the thicker and more perfected this protective layer becomes, making frying easier and more delicious. However, the lard layer should only be applied very thinly because excess fat will not fully polymerize and will leave a sticky surface instead of glossy smooth. A properly maintained skillet can last forever and become a priceless heirloom passed down to next generations, making homemade tortillas. When there is no bread left in the house and no yeast or oven available, handmade tortillas are the fastest solution to turn flour into a complete meal. This tip was extremely popular in border regions and American rural communities throughout the 19th century and the Great Depression when money and food were scarce. With only 2 cups of flour, a little warm water, and salt, the cook will knead the dough until smooth, then roll it thin and sear on a dry cast iron skillet for about 30 seconds on each side. The secret lies in releasing gluten through the kneading process and using extreme heat from the cast iron skillet to cook the bread quickly and make it puff up. These bubbling puffed breads with characteristic char marks were not just food, but were also used to replace forks and spoons to scoop food, helping to reduce washing up when clean water was still precious. This is evidence of the flexibility of a poor man's kitchen, where every simplest ingredient can be transformed into a timely, hunger-saving dish. Today, mothers often tell us that tortilla dough needs a short rest after kneading because this interval helps the gluten relax, making the bread easier to roll thin and not shrink when pan-seared. Haybox cooking. During the 1930s, Great Depression, when wood, coal, and gas were all resources that needed to be maximized, rural families used the haybox as a homemade slow cooker. After boiling a pot of soup or beans thoroughly, they would immediately place the pot in a box lined thickly with hay, sawdust, or old blankets, and then seal it tightly. The scientific reason behind this technique is the excellent insulation capability of hay, helping to retain the excess heat in the pot and letting the dish continue to cook gradually for many hours. The very slow temperature drop creates conditions for protein fibers to soften and flavors to blend deeply, similar to the working principle of a modern slow cooker. This method not only saves precious fuel, but also frees up time for the housewife so she can do other work in the fields. It also reduces the risk of fire and explosion when there is no need to maintain a continuous flame in the kitchen all day long. But remember that the pot must be boiled long enough before being put into the haybox, because the higher the initial heat, the safer and more effective the passive cooking process. This is a typical example of the wisdom of the poor, knowing how to utilize surrounding natural materials to cleverly improve quality of life. Saving chicken bones for soup. This is the core ingredient that creates the soul for every soup in the rural kitchen, turning what seems like waste into a precious nutritional foundation. In the 30s to 40s, rural families often stored bones from previous meals in a clean bag to wait until the weekend soup-making day. Bones were simmered over low heat for many hours with a bit of vinegar to support the process of extracting minerals and nutrients out of the hard bone structure. This slow cooking process helps completely extract collagen and gelatin from the connective tissues, creating a rich broth that when chilled will set like jelly. This broth not only provides an abundant energy source, but is also a natural remedy helping to enhance health for every family member. It is the secret behind legendary chicken soups or gravies with a deep flavor that industrial seasonings can never copy. While the modern world prioritizes the speed of store-bought broth, the manual bone simmering tip remains a symbol of love and care in the family. Using mason jars to mix salad dressing. In the past, the mason glass jar was used not only for pickling or storing flour, but in the rural kitchen, it was also a very effective non-electric hand blender. Appearing from the mid-19th century, this jar became an indispensable item, helping to turn separated ingredients into a homogeneous dressing mixture with just a few vigorous shakes. Mothers just needed to put oil, vinegar, mustard, and spices into the jar, tighten the lid, and shake well for about 30 seconds to 1 minute to create a perfect emulsion. Scientists proved that vigorous shaking in a closed space creates tiny oil droplets covered by the emulsifier, naturally preventing separation. In addition, the neutral glass material does not react with acid and vinegar or lemon, helping to preserve the purest flavor of the dressing. This is a clever solution, helping to save effort and minimize dishes to be washed, a very important thing in busy households. Today, there are modern and more convenient blenders, so this technique is no longer popular, but grandmothers still often pass it down to descendants with the advice that oil should be added to the jar last, because this order helps the emulsification process happen faster and more stably. When shaking, using cast iron skillets. Different from today's shiny but quickly damaged pots and pans, the cast iron skillet is the only item that becomes more valuable and durable the longer it is used in a rural kitchen. Since the beginning of the 20th century, almost every family owned at least one cast iron skillet capable of withstanding fierce heat from a primitive stove or wood fire. One skillet could be used for all purposes, from frying morning eggs, baking crispy crust cornbread, to slow stewing meat for dinner. Modern science has proven that cast iron retains heat extremely well and stably, helping food cook evenly and creating beautiful brown colors and excellent aromas for the dish. Through time of use, the fat seasoned under high heat will create a natural non-stick surface while also supplementing a small amount of beneficial iron for the user's health. The cast iron skillet is often an heirloom treasure cherished in a will to be passed down to the next generation as a symbol of family continuity. Today, many families still keep cast iron skillets from their grandparents' time as kitchen utensils or collectibles. A skillet used for 50 years usually has a much higher value than a new one because the non-stick layer has been perfected through thousands of meals. However, highly acidic dishes should not be cooked in a newly seasoned cast iron skillet because acid can erode the young seasoning layer and make the dish smell slightly of metal. Very happy to meet everyone again. Anyone who is a regular of the channel, please check in with a comment "I'm back" so I can send a personal greeting directly to each person. Saving bacon grease. In rural kitchens, lard or bacon grease was never thrown away. Since the 1930s, housewives always kept a tin or a glass jar by the stove to filter and store the fat after frying bacon for future cooking purposes. Just a small spoonful is enough to create a crispy golden crust for cornbread or bring a characteristic smoky flavor to stewed beans and sautéed potatoes. Salted pork fat has a high smoke point of about 190 degrees Celsius, which is extremely ideal for frying because it promotes a much stronger Maillard reaction than vegetable oil. This is the soul of Southern cuisine, representing the nose-to-tail cooking philosophy, an absolute respect for precious food sources during years of scarcity. During the 80s and 90s, bacon grease was shunned due to concerns about saturated fat. But today, many high-end chefs are gradually bringing this traditional fat back to their menus. This tip not only helps you save the cost of buying cooking oil, but is also a way to preserve traditional flavors that few modern seasonings can replace. But remember that bacon grease needs to be cooled completely before putting the lid on, because leftover moisture is the cause of the fat jar quickly losing its aroma and decreasing in quality. Making homemade buttermilk. The original concept of buttermilk was the liquid left over after churning butter from fermented cream, a precious ingredient, but one not always available in country kitchens. During the Great Depression, mothers created an extremely economical homemade version by combining fresh milk with a bit of available acidic substance. Just mix 1 tablespoon of white vinegar or lemon juice into 1 cup of milk and let it sit for 5 to 10 minutes. You will see the milk slightly curdle and create a characteristic thickness. Scientifically, the acid in this mixture will react strongly with baking soda to create CO2 gas that helps the cake rise perfectly and be light and fluffy. At the same time, the acidic environment weakens the gluten structure, helping pancakes or biscuits have a soft texture without ever being tough or hard. This small tip gave birth to countless foolproof recipes for pancakes, biscuits, American-style biscuits, and cornbread. However, this homemade buttermilk mixture should not be left for too long because after about half an hour, The continuing acidity will make the cake rise less stably and easily have a more sour taste than desired. Even though commercial buttermilk is very common in supermarkets today, many chefs still prefer this manual method for its convenience and the ability to control acidity as desired. Mayonnaise, scrambled eggs. For rural families of the 1950s, just a small spoonful of mayonnaise could make scrambled eggs much softer, richer, and smoother than the usual cooking method. Housewives usually mixed about 1 teaspoon of sauce for every 2 eggs, whisked well, and then scrambled over low heat until the eggs were just set. The emulsified fats in mayonnaise will surround the egg proteins, slowing down the hardening process when meeting heat. Specifically, mayonnaise should be mixed into the eggs while the eggs are still cold, because the emulsifier will work more stably and help the mixture be smooth and even before contacting heat. Thanks to that, the dish maintains natural moisture, is silky smooth instead of being dry or clumping due to overcooking. This is a clever way to cheat richness, helping cheap food achieve consistent quality and always be delicious despite the cook's lack of experience. This tip was once associated with the image of humble diners along rural roads where breakfast always had to be fast, cheap, and high quality. Famous chef Alton Brown later made this technique more popular in modern times through his scientific cooking programs. Today, many people still maintain this habit because the wonderful texture that mayonnaise brings is something very difficult to replace with butter. These rustic hillbilly dinners are not just food, but memories of a time of living slowly, living skillfully, and never wasting anything. From ingredients that seemed cheap, our grandparents created full, warm, and memorable meals. If you feel that spirit, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to continue journeying with the channel. And if you're curious why just a spoonful of mayonnaise, old lard, or even noodle water can save an entire dish, check out the next video. 25 genius grandma cooking tricks you'll wish you knew sooner. Vintage kitchen secrets. These old-time kitchen secrets will surely surprise you.